Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF 44 coming to another video. So I figured I'd do a therapy session this morning. Um, yeah, uh, just woke up and feel, you know what it is? I'll tell you the truth, exactly what it is. Since I don't have my wedding cake weed that I usually smoke, I've been really, really manic and all that stuff, as you guys know. I told you about that. But I don't think I've ever mentioned that when I'm not, dabbling in that weed, I dream vividly, like very vividly. And when I do smoke, which is pretty much all the time, I don't dream at all. Or if I do dream, it'll just give me a flash of a memory of a dream. You know what I mean? I won't retain the information that was experienced. So that's what I've been really kind of, I guess, dealing with. It's just once again having dreams that I remember. Once again going to sleep and having vivid experiences in there. And it's not like I'm having any nightmares or weird stuff. It's just a really, really consistent thing for me in terms of times when I don't smoke, going to sleep and having dreams, and times when I do, and just sleeping very good, but just no dreams remembered. So, like for example, I dreamed I was on a bus last night and some girl tried to snatch my phone out of my hand. Just weird stuff like that. Um, you know, and just very, very, very vivid dreams. So, I guess that's that's what's on my mind. It's just waking up and having dreams for a change. Um, Last night, it got real bad for me, as it did in the morning when I did that last video. I was telling you guys the truth about how I felt about life and how I felt about things. Last night was really bad. But the thing about it was, I gave myself an opportunity to kind of take the last little specks I had left to just give myself a little head change, because I always leave something there, some type of wedding cake. But it wasn't enough to even get me a full hit. But it was something to get my mind out of that space, just ever so small. Turned on some music, did some art, and felt a lot better. Took a shower, did some praying, all that stuff. Felt a lot better when I got in bed. But at the end of the day, it's not about how I feel, to be completely honest with you. I could feel like I'm $1,000,000. The reality is, it's the circumstances that I've created with my actions, the circumstances that I've created with my choices. And I think the worst decision was just not starting the process of getting a real therapy session going. Doing it on this phone is great, all that, but what you need is somebody to give you some feedback, tell you what they see, and all of that. Now, I don't believe in medication as it pertains to taking pills and stuff like that. My mother, she had a situation where her body didn't react well to anything like that. I'm not talking about psychological pills, because I don't know that she ever took them, but just in general, she didn't like pills, or rather, her body didn't like pills. So anytime she took any type of medication, it would have a reverse effect in what it was supposed to do. So I just kind of grew up with that understanding that medication for me probably would do the same. So I never really was into taking any. You'll never see me take a Zoloft or a Xanax or whatever the heck the names of those pills are. I don't do drugs. Um, so I'm not looking for a psychiatrist. I would be looking for a psychologist, someone who could just take all of what I have to say, diagnose it, and tell me what I've been dealing with for the last 37 years. Is it bipolar disorder? Is it some type of unknown rare disorder? Is it something that ain't a disorder at all, and I'm just telling myself some bull crap to keep myself lazy? Like, I need to know. I need to know what I got going on, and I just haven't had the strength, I think it was the word I'll use, to start that process. Um, but at the same time, it's like the way I look at psychiatrists, or psychology rather, of course, or sitting in a shrink's chair, is actually something I think that I would enjoy. So it's not that I hadn't had the strength to get help. It was more so having the strength to start a new routine, to actually get in my car when I had it, and then leave the house and face the anxiety that comes with simple tasks. You know, that's what it is. It's not wanting to go anywhere. Um, There are a lot of things that I can do. Um, you know what I mean? That would make it so that I face that type of thing. It's not just going to get some help. It's going back to work. It's going back to school. It's, you know, going out seeing friends and family, calling family members, letting them know what's going on. All of that is wrapped up in it. It's an isolation addiction, I think, is what I'll call it. It's an addiction to the comfort of being alone, and I don't know how to really overcome that. When I'm forced to overcome it, as it always is, I just do what I have to do. As strange as it seems, it really does come down to, if I'm forced to, I don't I don't sit still when I have no choice. But as long as it seems like there's a choice, I'll do whatever I have to do to stay in that comfort zone. That's to where a lot of people say getting out of your comfort zone is the fruit of life, and you'll find your life when you step out of that comfort zone. It's the choice to step out of that comfort zone that seems to be something that's very difficult for me to make. Uh, Even though I know the I know that I should. So it's like, this is why I definitely think I'm dealing with something. Excuse me. I definitely know I'm dealing with something, and it doesn't just end with the mental health. It's like, obviously there are other things that need to be taken care of. You know, I truly believe that all people should be, regularly in contact with their doctor. You should get regular checkups. You should get all caught up on anything that can help you be healthy, because knowing what's going on in your body can ultimately help you not only prevent the worst of things, but it can definitely prevent, most importantly, just the suffering that comes with not knowing and not treating something, right? You would guess, knowing how I am, that I haven't been to the doctor in a very long time. So I have no idea what's going on in my body. Now, the good thing is, I feel fine physically. What does that mean? Probably nothing as in the grand scheme of things. So that's another thing that needs to be done in my life. I got to not only take care of my mental health, but I got to go to a doctor and take care of my physical health. At 37 years of age, you got to start getting prostate checks. You got to, make sure that everything's fine. I've had family members that have had various different ailments, things of that nature. That's one thing that I need to do for myself this year. So, that's really what it is. It's like there are a lot of things that I'm neglecting to take care of. There's a lot of things that I'm not addressing, just simply because of that anxiety or whatever the heck it is that I'm not aware of what it is. So I call it anxiety. And that's just something I think, and to be completely honest with you, it would really be, and I don't want to push this off on anyone else, because it's literally no one's responsibility to take care of a grown man. But I think for myself and my brain, when my mother was in my life, you know what I mean? She would just take me and I would just go. She would be like I guess, to a degree, she would be like the anti-anxiety or whatever, because it wouldn't be a situation where I'm running on my own accord. I was on her schedule, so I would just go as she took me. So it would disarm me of all of that stuff. I wouldn't have to do any thinking. It's like, oh, you ready to go? Yeah, get in the shower. Okay, let's go. It was like there was no time to find that I loved isolation, because she was always present. You see what I'm saying? I never knew that I desired isolation like that until, uh, situations came about where I had long periods of time where I was alone. You know what I mean? Because to be honest with you, as a child, she wouldn't let me be in the house alone until I was about probably 11 or 12 years old. So, like, I never knew I was like this. Now, I knew there was something going on, because as a young child, there were issues too. A lot of them. A lot of issues. It was stuff. I remember one time I was little. I was probably about 8 or 9 years old. I remember crouching down in my mom's back seat. I don't know why I was in the back seat that day. I don't even think anybody was up front. I don't remember what was going on, but I was in the back seat, and I remember just hearing voices, like literally hearing screaming in my head. It was a lot of different voices in my head, and it wasn't anything said. It was just a bunch of screaming, and I just remember like covering my ears and crouching in the back of the car, and just not really being able to handle what it was I was dealing with. Now, as I grow older and I look back on that, I really do believe that as an artist, and this is something I don't know if this is a thing or not. This is just my own assessment of what I'm looking back on as I think about it. I really do believe that that was the beginning of my imagination as an artist really starting to come about. It was all of the different things that I can do as an artist kind of come like becoming real to me. In other words, and I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but if you're an artist and you could do poetry, a lot of that stuff comes from places that you don't actually initiate. It, um, artistic concepts, your imagination, things that you may have heard that stay with you, things that you may be coming up with on your own. All of those different things kind of are a side, I guess you can say, from your consciousness. If that makes any sense. It's almost like it's a third entity that's outside of that of which is speaking to you. As I speak to you, I'm a consciousness, a single consciousness. But a lot of the like art and poetry, I guess you could say, and different concepts, things that are artistic, that's like a third thing. That's like a spirit all into itself. And sometimes it's greater than me. Now, a lot of times the consciousness can come up with things too, obviously. I could come up with a poem or what have you. But some of the best poems I've ever had were more so things that were actually said to me, if that makes any sense. It was if it, It's not that I didn't create them myself. It's just that the mind itself is much broader than just a singular um, consciousness. It's more going on. Like I'm thinking, and I can hear my head also playing a song. I'll see a memory. You know what I mean? It's a lot of different things going on. And I always say when you're an artist, especially if you're really gifted and vivid in your imagination, it really is something that's difficult to control. It really is something that's difficult to grasp. And a lot of times artists have a lot of issues because of the fact that whatever it is that they're dealing with in their mind is much greater than their consciousness, which is why you have so many people who can do amazing things. For example, and I always refer to different artists that I pay attention to. A guy like Kyrie Irving is someone that comes to my mind. I don't know how he views his dribbling combinations, but as I watch them, they're hard to fathom. Like, how the hell did you come up with all these different variations at once? And what I think is possibly happening is they're coming to him. It's not necessarily his consciousness saying, go left, go right, up, down, left, right. It's more so him looking at what's going on ahead of him and the greatness within himself just manifesting what it is that's necessary. Now, I could be terribly wrong about that, but that's kind of how I view a lot of artistic people. People who are great at music. I'd imagine somebody like Stevie Wonder. His consciousness, yes, he's speaking to you, he can talk to you and all that. But once he comes into Ribbon in the Sky, if that manifests in his head, it's probably something that's actually coming from a different place. You know, it's not even his consciousness is probably creating that melody. It's like a bunch of different realities that he has to try to zero into one thing to manifest into what it is. And so that's what I think as an artist, since I have so many different artistic natures and so many different things that my brain can actually do that I haven't even really tapped into, I think that's what it was. My imagination was just too much for me to handle. It's the best way I know how to describe the thought. So when I think back on those moments as a child, and you couple that with the trauma that I had faced, I had no way to reel that in. I had no way to um, cage that animal. I guess which is what you can say. And so, yeah, I think that's what it was for me. Looking back on it, I don't think that I was haunted by spirits or nothing like that. I don't look at it that way. It was more so just my imagination outside of my control at the time, I believe. And so as I continue to learn about myself in different art forms and different things that I can do, I think, for example, last night when I was going through the darkness of times, the darkest of thoughts or what have you, sitting down, turning on the music, listening to one of my playlists, doing one of my little doodle arts or whatever. I did about 9 or 10 of them. By the time I finished that, I didn't feel like that no more because I had gotten all of that energy, whatever that was, inside of my mind, making me feel so negative. I was able to channel it into that art. And so that's ultimately what I'm learning I can do now, is rather than to let those things that haunt me, or these things that attack me mentally, continue to do so. You got to find a way to channel it into something tangible, something that you can channel into that consciousness or channel into one place. So I put it on the page, I put it on in the art form, and it made me feel better. You know what I mean? and change my circumstances. I still need what I need. I still need to change some things. But the point was, I didn't need to be sitting there in such a negative space, in such a deteriorating mindset. Wasn't necessary. Just had to turn it into art. So that's what I'm here to say. I've always had issues with certain things. Like, for example, I had imaginary friends because, my mother and I were the only people in the house at the time. She would be doing her thing, watching Entertainment Tonight or whatever, and I would be sitting in the mirror talking to nobody. You know what I mean? Like, literally talking to nobody. And, I know kids have imaginary friends, so it wasn't anything special. But there should have been, for me, the process of starting that psychological dialogue back then. That way I could have kind of reeled it in and then been a little more social, kind of grow a bit better into my social understanding. And then I could have found ways of helping myself. Then they could have told me how to exercise, how to eat right, how to desire to eat right, so that my body wouldn't be getting out of shape, and then my mind could deteriorate from there, which is what it did. I would grow uncomfortable in my weight, go to school, deal with the experiences of whatever would come with that, go home, and then feel however I felt, and that would grow into a desire to be alone. Now, once my mom started allowing me to stay home alone, I started realizing that those experiences that I would have at school or what have you, those feelings that came from being in the presence of others, would not exist. And that's when I started to love being alone. As to where a lot of people find themselves lonely, I find myself desiring to be by myself because I'm most comfortable in that space. So it's very strange. It's two things that I honestly don't think I know too much about. Maybe others can tell me they see something different within myself, and I'll listen to them because I'm not accessing my entire memory of my entire life. But what I can honestly tell you is this: I don't think I've ever understood what it meant to be lonely, and I don't think I've ever understood what it meant to be jealous of being someone else. Those are two things that I don't recall ever feeling in my life. Because of jealousy to be somebody else, like I wish I were somebody else, I wish I were Michael Jackson, I don't think I've ever felt that. And the reason why I don't think I've ever really felt that is because I've always had this like wild confidence about the artistic forms that I have, and this wild understanding that my brain can do great things. And I don't think I've ever felt lonely is because of what I've already explained about wanting to be by myself all the time and feeling comforted, safe in isolation. You know what I mean? So these are the things that make me think that there's something to my anxiety and my mindset. It's not just a guy who's overly stressed, that there's something to be diagnosed here, because those are not natural human traits, in my opinion. To not experience those, or to not recall experiencing those, or even if I was taking a step forward, to deny believing that I've experienced those, whatever that may be. I just don't think that that's normal. Most people long to be around others. That's a human trait that is natural, to be in a confined space and desire human interaction. Now, while I don't fully get away from human interaction because I always have this phone in my hand, I can hear people talk. You know what I mean? It's not full isolation, and I'm aware of that. But at the same time, so long as I'm not in the presence of others in the flesh, there's some type of fake comfort or some fake safety that I feel like I feel. Maybe that comes from some of the things that happened when I was in my early stages, the traumas that I experienced and the sadnesses that I experienced and the losses and all this other stuff that may have taken place in the past. May have made it so that I never actually feel safe in the presence of others, but even more so, the desire to feel safe in and of itself, rather than to be the aggressor. You know what I mean? To be that strong spirit to say, I am enough. I can protect myself. I can arm myself and protect myself. I can learn how to do this, and this, and cover my tracks as best as I can. I can gain this amount of strength through the numbers. Maybe even in some cases in my life and in my city, join a gang so there could be strength in numbers and stuff like that. I never desired any of that because I never felt safe in the presence of anyone at all. You know what I mean? It's like a weird kind of psychological thing. Anyway, I should have created space for this video. Only had 20 minutes. I'm going to create that space and continue this video. So this is a two-parter. Thanks for watching.